Recording. So welcome to, I guess, the Halloween version of DFEND. I actually forgot about Halloween, or else I would have made this more theme-based. Today we're talking about nutrition, exercise, and mental health. And I just want to put a disclaimer that I am by no means an expert on mental health. So I can't really answer any detailed questions. And I'm not an expert in exercise, but that's why we have Erin Howie on the call, because she is. And you heard a lot about exercise and health from Britt last week. So there was a malfunction in me saving the recording from the exercise talk last week. But luckily, Britt is teaching in my undergrad class at the U of A on Tuesday. So she's going to present a lot of the same information. So I'll be able to upload something next week. So, oops. Our goals today are really to understand factors that can impact our mental health, understand how certain foods benefit mental health, and how exercise can benefit mental health. And I think this is a timely topic, especially, we're months and months into social distancing. There's a lot of mental load and mental health issues just weighing down on people this time of year. So hopefully some of the tips provided can help a little bit. So according to the Centers for Disease Control, mental health is really an important part of our overall health and well-being. And we talked a little bit, I think, about well-being in the beginning of DFEND. It also includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. And it's important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence all the way through adulthood. And I'm not sure if any of you are like me, where you notice that when you get really stressed, at least for me, it really makes me make a lot more unhealthy choices than healthy choices, which kind of makes things worse. So a lot of times you hear mental health and you also hear this link to well-being. I think they go hand in hand. So people who tend to score highly on well-being aspects or attributes of well-being tend to have higher or more positive mental health outcomes. So well-being is really about our physical health, our emotional health, spirituality, socialness, or our social lives, social connections, intellectual, financial, environmental, and occupational. And Angela made a really nice fact this week on dimensions of well-being and mental health, and that should be posted sometime later today. So why is mental health so important for our overall health? Well, they're equally important components. Mental illness, especially depression, increases the risk for many types of physical health problems, particularly long-lasting conditions like stroke, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. And in this aspect, when we're talking about mental illness, we're really talking about like anxiety and depression and things related to mental health, not things, more clinical mental illnesses like maybe Alzheimer's disease or schizophrenia, things like that. In the presence of chronic conditions can increase our risk for mental illness. So they're actually sort of this circle, they feed back to one another. So if you are worried about your mental health or feel like you're having a lot of stress or anxiety, these are common signs. This is also from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's website. So feelings of fear, anger, sadness, you worry a lot, maybe numbness or frustration, your appetite or energy and activity levels may change. You could have a lot of difficulty concentrating and making decisions, difficulty sleeping or nightmares. They can also manifest itself in physical reactions like headaches, aches and pains, stomach issues or GI problems. Some people get rashes. You can find a worsening of any other chronic health problem you have, and some people may increase use of alcohol, tobacco, or other sorts of drugs. So this data that I'm going to present about mental health status in the United States, this was just updated on October 19th. So if you look at the data from earlier in the year, there's a big increase from January, February mental health status in the US to October. So right now, the percent of adults age 18 and over with regular feelings of worry, nervousness, or anxiety are around 11.2%. So it's gone up during this pandemic. And adults over the age of 18 that have regular feelings of depression are around 4.7%. And more than 2 in 5 US residents report struggling with mental or behavioral health issues associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, including anxiety, depression, increased substance use, and suicidal thoughts. So I guess if you are feeling this way, you should reach out to a health professional. And the CDC has lots of useful resources on their website. But one also concerning thing is that feelings of anxiety have also significantly increased in young adults. So 60% of those surveyed reported feelings of anxiety and depression. So can your mental health change over time? The answer is yes. Your mental health can change over time depending on a lot of factors. So it could be maybe you're at a time in your life when the demands placed on you exceed your resources or your coping abilities. This could impact your mental health. So for instance, people who work long hours or are caring for an ill relative or maybe experiencing economic hardship may experience poor mental health during that time period, but may feel better, after. And this is underlined just because I couldn't figure out how to remove the underline, sorry. And we know that pandemics can be stressful. So COVID-19 pandemic is stressful for a lot of people. There's a lot of fear and anxiety about it because it's a new disease and we're learning more and more every day. But we really don't know what could happen, and this can be overwhelming and cause a lot of strong emotions in both adults and children. And the public health actions as part of this pandemic, like social distancing, can help people or make people feel isolated and lonely. This also leads to increased stress and anxiety, but we know that these actions are necessary to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So this is also coming from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's website. But data does show that coping with stress in a healthy way will make you, the people you care about in your community, stronger. And this study actually just came out, I think I just saw it in a newsletter we were sent in our inboxes yesterday from the University of Arkansas Research Office. And this is from data collected by a professor at the U of A from March to April. They surveyed almost 11,000 Americans and asked about how fearful they were, how fearful they were about COVID-19. So this is, keep in mind at the beginning of the pandemic. So everything that's a little in a white square is low, gray is medium, and dark gray is high. So you can see there was a lot of fear initially about COVID-19 pandemic, and this can also increase anxiety and depression. So there are healthy ways to cope with stress during COVID-19. Know what to do if you are sick and you're concerned about COVID-19. I know the Division of Agriculture has been putting out a lot of great information about COVID-19 and what to do if you are concerned about having COVID-19. They've also put out a lot of useful information just in general about the pandemic and ways to cope during the pandemic. Know where and how to get treatment. Take care of your emotional health. This aligns with your mental health. Take breaks from watching, reading, or listening to news stories. So this is anything from like mainstream media on TV to social media or print media. It's important to give your mind a break. Make time to unwind and relax. Connect with others. So this is how the idea for DFEND started. I was feeling really disconnected sitting in my basement every day working, and I called Dr. Howie and said, what do you think about starting a group where we can connect with other people interested in activity, nutrition, and health? So I think we've started our first one maybe in May or June, so it's been several months, and I enjoy connecting with you guys every Friday. It's really helped me get out of a mental health funk. Connect with your community or faith-based organizations. And if you can't, and right now, it's hard to do these things in person, but connecting virtually is also, once you get used to it, can be a great way to stay in touch with people. And then take care of your body. So this is really important, and this is what we'll talk about over the next several minutes, is eating healthy, well-balanced meals, exercising regularly, and getting plenty of sleep. So we haven't really talked much about sleep, and I won't really talk too much about it today, but I have a feeling in DFEND 3.0, we'll talk more about sleep and healthy behaviors. So what does it mean to eat healthy, oops, there's a typo there, well-balanced meals? Well, really it's eating, your fruits and vegetables, eating complex carbohydrates. So these are foods higher in fiber, limiting process intake, limiting alcohol consumption. So we know that having proper nutrition, so meeting the dietary guidelines, and we know Americans are pretty poor at staying within our calorie range, getting enough servings of fruits and vegetables. We eat too much salt and saturated fat, and all of these can negatively impact our mental health. And we also know we need to stay hydrated. And you'll remember at the beginning of DFEND 2.0, Dr. McDermott from Exercise Science spoke on the importance of hydration. So people who eat a well-balanced diet, they've done a lot of like population-based studies or epidemiology research looking at people who eat well-balanced diets. So this is tend to be defined as, 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, meeting their fiber recommendations, meeting their saturated fat recommendations and calorie intake. They tend to be healthier and have stronger immune systems and lower risk of chronic illnesses and infectious disease. And so following the dietary guidelines, you really need to eat a variety of fresh and unprocessed foods every day to get the vitamins, minerals, fiber, protein, and antioxidants your body needs. And next week, we'll learn a lot more about antioxidants from Dr. Luke Howard in the food science department, because he'll talk to us about the health benefits of berries, which are high in antioxidants. Like I said, drink enough water, avoid excess sugar, fat, and salt. This will lower your risk of overweight, obesity, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and certain types of cancer, but also help with feelings of good mental health. So there is some evidence that following certain dietary patterns are linked to improved mental health. So one of those is the Mediterranean style diet. We've talked a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. And this is really a diet high in vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, beans, cereals, grains, fish, and unsaturated fats like olive oil. And we talked about dietary fat. We did talk about, I think, some of these healthy fats like olive oil and fish oil. So there's been studies that shown this Mediterranean diet, when supplemented with fish oil, leads to a reduction in depression among the people who participated. And this was sustained for 6 months after the intervention. And I'll talk about this in the exercise portion, but it's also important with nutrition. You can start to see improvements really every, I think, day when you change your diet, but it's really a sustained lifestyle change to see some of these longer term health improvements. And this is just an example from the American Society for Nutrition's website, looking at the Mediterranean diet. So you're really eating red meat and sweets less often. Physical activity makes up the base of the pyramid, and then basing your diet around fruits, vegetables, and high fiber foods with healthy fats. And they have shown that a poor diet, so like the typical Western or American diet that has high levels of saturated fat, a lot of refined or processed carbs, and other processed food products, are linked to poor mental health in children and adolescents, but also in adults. Another diet that we've talked a little bit about in, I think, DFEND 1.0 and a little bit in DFEND 2.0 is the MIND diet. So the MIND diet is really a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. So the DASH diet is promoted by the American Heart Association. Its dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And this MIND diet combines these two. So it's called the Mediterranean DASH intervention for neurodegenerative delay. It's an eating pattern that focuses on natural plant-based foods and limiting red meat, saturated fats, and sweets. The DASH diet has been shown to improve mental health in participants. There's been a lot of studies and long-term interventions in the DASH diet, but people find the Mediterranean diet easier to comply with. So combining them makes it for a diet that people find easier to follow. So what is the MIND diet? Again, it just aligns with the dietary guidelines. Get at least 3 servings of whole grains, so high fiber foods each day. at least one dark green salad and one other vegetable, berries at least twice a week, at least 1 ounce serving of nuts each day, eat beans or legumes, so those are things like lentils, at least every other day, poultry at least twice a week, fish at least once a week, and then really limiting saturated fat. So no more than 1 tablespoon of butter or margarine and choosing olive oil instead. And cheese, fried food, and fast food no more than once a week. And pastries and sweets less than 5 times a week. So it's really talking about a lifestyle and dietary intake change. So they've done some observational studies. So the Mind Diet only came out, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago. And they have shown that people who follow this diet reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by up to 53%. And it slows cognitive decline and improves verbal memory. And one of the other cool things they found about the Mind Diet is, yes, in the people who complied almost 100%, there were great improvements. But even people who complied about 50 to 60% to the Mind Diet also saw improvements in cognitive decline in memory and mental function. So the impact of food intake for improved well-being and mental health, I may have presented some of this at the beginning of DFEND. But we do know under situations like pandemics and time of stress that cravings of comfort foods will increase, due to stress and boredom. You may have a desire to consume a specific type of food, so you can have an emotional, behavioral, cognitive, or physiological need to eat food. So you may be thinking about food, have intense desire to eat certain foods, and we know that women tend to have higher prevalence for these cravings than men. And a lot of times during stressful times, we crave carbs because carbohydrates encourage serotonin production in our brain, which has a positive effect on mood. But simple carbohydrates can lead to weight gain. And also they've shown that people who eat high processed food, high sugar diets have like an increase in mood and then, a sudden decrease. So it's more associated with some mood swings. We know that a lot of people have impaired sleep right now. I think, the last month has probably been really stressful for a lot of people. Sleep disturbances can increase stress and food intake. I think like every day I sleep 20 minutes less. So try to consume food that promotes the synthesis or the building of this hormone serotonin as well as melatonin at dinner. So a lot of root vegetables, leaves, fruits, seeds, and protein-based foods, they have this amino acid called tryptophan in them. And tryptophan is what the precursor or what you need to make serotonin in your body. There's also a lot of foods that you can eat that have been shown to boost immune function, and most of them are fruits and vegetables. It's really the components or the antioxidants that, and the anthocyanins, the things that give fruits and vegetables their color. They have a lot of antioxidants in them, as well as vitamins and minerals that boost immunity. And these antioxidants can increase your number of T cells, so your immune cells. So things like beta carotene that come from orange fruits and vegetables and green leafy vegetables, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin D, and zinc, have all been linked to boosts in immune function. And I would always say, go for the overhaul of the diet versus taking supplements that are rich in these nutrients. So what about exercise? So we heard from Britt Allman last week, regular exercise is important for our health. There are a lot of mental health benefits of exercise. And Dr. Howie, if I misspeak in any way, please interrupt me because I'm not an expert in exercise or physical activity. But we know exercise releases chemicals like endorphins. And I don't know the age bracket of our entire audience here, but if you've ever watched Legally Blonde 1, she talks a lot about exercise and endorphins in this one scene that always makes me laugh. So that's what I was thinking about when I hear about exercise and endorphins, but exercise also improves serotonin that improve your mood. It can also get you out in the world and help reduce any feelings of loneliness and isolation and put you in touch with other people. So I would say this is one of the hard ones during the pandemic. But I would still say, going outside and getting fresh air for around 30 minutes a day can do a lot just to walk and improve your mood. If you exercise regularly, it can reduce your stress and symptoms with mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. It can help with recovery from mental health issues. It can improve your sleep, help with confidence and self-esteem, ability to have more social interaction. So there's a lot of virtual exercises happening right now where maybe you can connect virtually with people, and it also can help take your mind off worries. So exercise pumps blood to our brain. It can help you think more clearly. It increases the size of the hippocampus in the brain. So this is the part of the brain responsible for memory. And it can also increase connections between the nerve cells in your brain, which can improve your memory and help your brain, protect your brain against injury and disease. So what are some tips for getting started and staying motivated? Again, Britt touched on this last week. Identify what you enjoy doing. If you don't like doing it, the chances of staying motivated are probably pretty low. Get support from a mental health professional when you're talking about changing your exercise or physical activity routine. Set reasonable goals. I think this is true for exercise, but as well as for nutrition. Don't think of exercise or physical activity as a chore. Analyze your barriers. So when you know what your barriers are to getting started and staying motivated, it can help you make a plan that will work for you. And prepare for setbacks and obstacles. Again, I would say this is also true for changing any lifestyle change, but be prepared to get back on track the next day. So how much is enough exercise? So some data has shown that doing 30 minutes or more of exercise a day for 3 to 5 days a week may improve symptoms of depression or anxiety, but smaller amounts of physical activity, around 10 to 15 minutes at a time, may make a difference. And the study that this came from also emphasizes that these improvements were measured after several weeks or months on these exercise programs. So it's really something you have to do and to see a sustained effect. And it may take less time exercising to improve your mood when you do more vigorous activities like running or bicycling. Maybe this has something to do with blood flow. And the mental health benefit of exercise and physical activity may last only if you stick with it over the long term, like I just said. So this is why it's important to find things that you enjoy doing and can stick with. And it can be aerobic, so like cardiovascular exercise, or a mix of aerobic and muscle strengthening. So in summary, diet and exercise can impact your mental health and have positive improvements on mental health. Our mind and our body are connected in several ways, and how we treat our body can impact our mental health, and eating right and exercising can be important mental health practices. But I will put a caveat there that if you are struggling with mental health issues, contact a physician or a telehealth professional, or go to the CDC. Even the Arkansas Department of Health has really great resources on who to contact if you are struggling with mental health issues. So again, next week will be about the health benefits of berries with Dr. Luke Howard. He's a professor in food science. He gives great presentations. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I will try, if anyone has really questions about maybe the biology or physiology of mental health, we have a clinical psychologist that Dr. Howie and I have just started to talk to, that maybe we can get them to come in and give a presentation. Any questions, comments? Yeah, and Pia wrote that you can also contact the Arkansas Employee Assistance Program. I've heard really good things about the Employee Assistance Program. And I think the division, didn't they recently send, I think, an email with some contact information?
Yeah, Jamie, I would be interested in that mental health and diet connection. I really love doing little programs on that.
Okay, and I think like with DFEND 3.0, when we start in January, our idea is to make it like a new year, new you, and talk about like behavior change and making choices to see like improved health benefits like that, not just about weight loss. So we can talk to someone and see if they can come in and talk about that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of research out there on just excuse me, blood sugar levels and mood and irritability and things like that. So if people understand, that that's also a side effect of too many sweets and
Yeah.
not
And
enough
I don't
fiber.
know if we have someone here that could talk along that line, but maybe I can find a friend or a former colleague or something that could come talk to us for like 20 minutes. And then I did get a request about the PowerPoint. We will put the PowerPoint on, I'll fix the typos, but it will go up today on the website. And so, I mean, I'll be honest, like as the days and the weeks go by, my mental health is all over the place. And I don't know if you guys in Little Rock were experiencing the torrential like rains the last 3 or 4 days. We finally got sun. Ooh, that was brutal. So now I was following someone on Instagram who talks about, mental health. And last night I left my phone on the kitchen table and when I went to bed, and I can't tell you how much better I slept.
Did you hear that?
No.
She left her phone on the kitchen table.
Oh. That's okay, Chris. Got it.
Hey, Jamie, can you go over some details of the MIND diet again? Just what is it?
Can you give, okay, let me look, go back to that slide on my computer. So MIND diet is something I'm really interested in. When I read about it, I tried to get a grant to study it more, but the USDA had concerns about the reality for low-income families. And I think there's a question here or a comment about from Marla about little income or low income families, that it might be difficult to buy these foods. So the MIND diet, it's really a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet. So the DASH diet is really a diet that focuses on sodium reduction and high fruits and vegetables and fiber intake. And the Mediterranean diet is kind of that pyramid we talked about, where you focus on fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and like physical activity and more of a lifestyle intervention. So they've found that people who follow this MIND diet for like 4 to 6 months really have like significant improvements in markers of Alzheimer's disease, of pre-Alzheimer's. So they really focused on cognitive function in aging adults. But the diet focuses on high fruits and vegetable intake and high fiber and high quality whole grains. And those components have been linked to improve, immunity and depression and anxiety. So I think the conclusion is, a healthy diet that meets your fruit and vegetable intake, physical activity, and whole grains, lean proteins, kind of just like the dietary guidelines, you tend to have like better health outcomes. But I think, it's not just nutrition or just exercise. I really think it's the combination of both. And I think Britt talked about that last week. Dr. Howie's addressed that. But I totally see the point, the advice for someone who had made very little income or low income. So I would say, there is nothing wrong with frozen or canned fruits. And fruits, you have to be careful if they're canned in high in sugary syrup. And the Mediterranean diet can be quite costly. So I think, focusing on frozen or canned, and then also focusing on portion size. So I think, if we understand portion size, we can cut back on a lot of the food we consume. But it's difficult. I totally agree. And the USDA also pinpointed those things. So I've really been thinking about how could we get this diet to, become more affordable and more accessible to people. But I think, also focusing on whole grains and just reducing fast food, fried food, and processed food intake could help. So, instead of eating white bread, eat whole grain bread or whole grain pasta or brown rice versus white rice or white pasta. And I think, increasing physical activity is what I would say. If you can't really follow a MIND or a Mediterranean diet, but you can get out and walk 30 minutes. At least when I went to my physical on Monday and was telling my doctor about my COVID blues, his first suggestion was go out and walk for 30 minutes every morning and see if that uplifts your mood. And I did it today because it was torrential the other days, and I feel better. Maybe it's the placebo effect. I'm not sure. So yeah, and I know, and like if you have someone within your sort of trusted COVID circle that you feel comfortable walking with, or if you feel comfortable wearing a mask, I would totally recommend it. I have a friend that I've walked with every Sunday morning for months and months and months, and we decided that's not something we wanted to give up because it's important for our mental health. So we walk and wear a mask. And, you know, after the first couple times, you get used to it. What else? Oh, so yeah. So, I mean, I will think about ways to make Mind Diet and Mediterranean diet. What are some things we can do to be more cost effective? I think it's really important. And, you know, I think about my husband's family. His parents live on a limited income and they live in Italy. So they follow, you know, by nature, I guess, the Mediterranean diet. But it's so different because they live in an apartment and they go down to the ground floor, and across the street is like a stall that sells fresh fruits and vegetables, you know, really cheap. So it's a completely different lifestyle. And part of that Mediterranean living is, you know, people in the Mediterranean are walking everywhere or using public transportation, so they don't rely on cars. So that gets a lot of physical activity in the diet. So cost effective. Erin, did I answer your question? I feel like I totally went on a hunger tangent because my brain got unfocused.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Yeah, and I know I think doesn't Extension have like a Mediterranean diet cooking program? I don't know if it focuses on just cooking or if it tailors it to meet the needs of like all populations or not. Has anyone taken it?
We do have one.
Does it
But
focus
it
on
is,
cost?
well, there's a cost involved, and it is not suitable for our SNAP education activity.
Okay. And so that's where like Pam wrote, brown rice isn't really expensive. And I know like and I think whole grain pasta is hard to find right now as people are focusing on like lentil pastas and other kind of pastas. But when I remember 9 years ago when I first moved to Arkansas, whole grain pasta was 2 or 3 times the cost of regular pasta. And now it's the same cost. And the Great Value makes a really good whole grain pasta. So it's just kind of what I tell people is think about little changes. I mean, I am the biggest fan of frozen vegetables. I mean, I struggle with eating fruit because I don't know, the cold thing. I like warm food versus cold food. But I do try to eat berries, but berries can be really expensive, and that's where I go with frozen berries. Eliminating added sugar and processed food is a first step. Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. But it's hard. And so like one thing, my son likes Kraft mac and cheese. So now I try to just stir in frozen vegetables as a way to fool him. I mean, it doesn't really because he catches it. But yeah, Harps and Walmart have store brand whole wheat spaghetti. And so, you know, Walmart has made a lot of changes, I think, to their Great Value products or Sam's Choice, their house brands that are becoming less about the cheapest ingredients and more about quality ingredients. So they are offering a lot more whole grain. I think they even have, you know, like quinoa or some of these other grains you hear about at a way more affordable price than they used to be. But maybe, so we will have a student that will be able to help us in January, like full time with DFEND 3.0. So I know it seems far away, but the new year is not, it's not that far away. What, 8 weeks until the end of the year, which is scary. So I'd say if anyone has suggestions, we will circulate our recipe templates for our recipe book starting next week. And if you want a recipe book, we'll put a new, we'll either have you email your home address or have a sign up on our website. So it will be free, and we encourage everyone to submit multiple recipes. So if anyone does have Mediterranean type or like DASH diet type recipes that they really like that are easy and affordable, that'd be really appreciated. Anything else?
Jamie,
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, Chris.
I was my son is not the best eater in the world, and I have breakfast and lunch with him every day. Today I just got him to eat mac and cheese, and you had just mentioned that. What do you think about the idea of mixing, for the nutritional value, somehow mixing maybe an egg white in the mac and cheese mixture, and then, I mean, if it,
I'm thinking, go ahead.
that's it. That was my question.
Well, I guess I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but one egg white and like a whole, like a Kraft mac and cheese type, or
Yeah, one of those.
I don't know if
Probably,
one egg white in the big pot would make a difference. Something I've experimented with is whey protein, because it's a
that's good idea.
powder and it kind of has a milky flavor, and you add like cheese and butter or that, and like, so because it doesn't matter if you buy Great Value brand, Aldi brand, or Kraft, they all call for 4 tablespoons of butter.
Yeah.
I found that you can cut that in half and add like a little more milk, and then I'll use like 1% milk. I mean, it's not as delicious because 4 tablespoons of butter, let's be honest, is pretty awesome. But it works, and my son doesn't really notice. Or the other day I had no butter, so I used olive oil. It was iffy, but he ate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I was just thinking about that, and I just gave him mac and cheese today for the first time, like ever, or since he was 6.
Yeah.
He hasn't had it since he was 6. He's not a great eater. I'm working to improve it.
My son's a picky eater as well, so when I find something, I latch onto that.
Yeah.
But I think, as far as mental health, again, like if you have serious struggles, I would, talk to a healthcare professional. I think you're not alone during this time. And I'll think of ideas about like low cost recipes, because when they hit back with sort of that challenge on the MIND diet, I thought, well, like the people that need these diets the most, they're not always affordable. Anyway, any other questions, comments, concerns? Well, thank you, everyone. And thanks, Lisa. Have a great day and a great weekend, and avoid all that candy. So if you have less trick-or-treaters this year, if your neighborhood's letting you, or your community, trick-or-treat, donate that basket. That's the hardest part about being out of the office. Can't pawn it off on your colleagues. Anyway, thank you and have a great day.